Santorum, Bob Casey, welcome both to Meet the Press.
What I would say is that we have found weapons of mass destruction. They were older weapons, but we have found chemical weapons. The report was just released not too long ago that said that there were over 500 chemical weapons found in
Senator,
Iraq.
the president has accepted the report of his two task force and said, quote, that the chief weapons inspector has issued his report. Iraq did not have the weapons our intelligence believed were there.
Well, there were all sorts of weapons that our intelligence believed were there. They thought that there were new weapons. So far, we have not found any new weapons.
And so when John Kerry, the Democratic nominee in 2004, introduced legislation which says all troops out by July of 2007, Bob Casey votes no.
Absolutely.
So Iran now has more influence in Iraq than they did before Saddam Hussein.
Just understand.
Is that true?
I would say that they have influence in a free country where you have an opportunity to express yourself, if you will. Yes, you can probably do more in that country than they would within a totalitarian regime.
Let me respond. And I think after it's over, after you get the terminology right, maybe you can have a seminar in Washington about whether bin Laden, whom we should be finding and killing, whether he's a dead terrorist or a dead fascist.
So double the people on Social Security and Medicare, and the life expectancy approaches 80, and the solution is do nothing.
No. The solution is
grow our way out.
Growth, return to fiscal responsibility, make the estate tax changes. In other words, get on the path to fiscal responsibility. Tim, we didn't have a problem with Social Security in the 90s because we had good growth. You didn't take a position on the state pay raise.
I'm not a state official. You are. You were in a position. You signed the pay raise checks. You had an opportunity to stop this pay raise.
Following the law.
And you said following the law that you now say is unconstitutional. You filed a brief. You filed a brief saying it was unconstitutional.
You have a legal opinion about what it is.
You filed a brief saying it was unconstitutional.
Following the law, right?
You own a home.
I own a home, and I've always owned a home.
But since you've owned your home at 111 Stevens Lane, how many nights have you personally spent there?
I can't tell you how many nights I've spent there. What I say is...
Roughly.
I don't know. What I spend...
I mean, a handful?
I probably spend maybe a month a year, something like that.
A month a year?
On nights?
In that house?
Yeah, probably. I mean, the bottom line is that I own a home there. I pay my local taxes. I pay my state taxes, income taxes. I pay real estate taxes, and I have. And my driver's license there. I vote there. My dentist is there. I mean, the bottom line is, yes, I have a job here in Washington. That's what the people of Pennsylvania elected me to do. And I pay all my taxes there. And I want to be a father who's with his children.
Charlie Crist, he's Florida's Attorney General, and he is from St. Petersburg. And Tom Gallagher, he's Florida's Chief Financial Officer. He is from Miami.
I want to acknowledge something that's occurring this evening. There is a storm bearing down on Florida called Ernesto. Here in South Florida, where we're televising from, a lot of people are concerned about it, and I noticed a lot of long lines at the gas stations. I would encourage people that are watching tonight to listen to your local elected officials. But I think it's important for people to understand who the true conservative is in this race, and it's Charlie Crist, and I'm a Jeb Bush Republican.
Mr. Gallagher.
Boy, it's hard to believe that he'd say he's a Jeb Bush Republican when he's for the class size amendment that Jeb Bush says is going to raise your taxes. It's hard to believe that he says he's a Jeb Bush Republican when you ask him about abortion and you never know where he stands on it. He flips-flops all over the place, and I will promise you, Jeb Bush doesn't flip-flop when it comes to abortion.
In 1994, when you ran against Governor Bush, you questioned his ethics, said he lacked the experience to be our governor, and even compared Jeb Bush to Fidel Castro.
You voted for Jim Davis's tax on rental cars. You voted for a sugar tax. Charlie, come on.
Come on, Tom. You're no conservative, and we know it.
Mr. Crist.
I believe in the death penalty. I believe that it is appropriate, and I think we need to continue to have it in our state.
Yes, I would carry out the duties of the governor and carry out the death penalty for the heinous crimes that it has been awarded to the persons that have gotten it.
Welcome to the final Republican primary debate for the U.S. Senate from Rhode Island. It's an hour long with no commercials, and the format changes as we go along. Let me welcome now the candidates, incumbent Senator Lincoln Chafee and his challenger, Cranston Mayor Steve Laffey.
Parameters of a just war, and they have the principles of a just war. And first, it's a last resort. Second, waged by a legitimate authority. Third, to redress a wrong suffered. Fourth, a reasonable chance of success. Fifth, The ultimate goal, to reestablish peace. 7th, it must be proportional to the injury suffered. And 8th, civilians are never permissible targets of war. I think that's fair.
Do you
just principles of a just war.
Do you think our actions in Iraq and Afghanistan meet those criteria?
Certainly not Iraq. Afghanistan, I did vote in favor of that war, but Iraq, the evidence was just never there.
My vision, though, when the senator said a bad peace is better than a good war, is that there's been lots of bad peaces, and they've led to another war. The visions of the Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia in 1938 is what went through my mind when Senator Chafee made that comment. So we just have maybe a different version. I don't have any of the other religious basis for it. I just think when it's in the national interest of the United States of America to protect its citizens.
Senator, if Osama bin Laden is captured, tried, and found guilty in a U.S. court of masterminding the 9/11 attacks, federal prosecutors will have the option to ask for the death penalty. Would you support the death penalty for bin Laden?
Highly emotional issue, but Rhode Island executed an innocent man in the 19th century, and I oppose the death penalty.
Well, my question is premised on the fact that Mr. bin Laden would be found guilty.
Yes, yes.
And if he is found guilty?
I oppose the death penalty, and these some highly emotional issues will come up, and you probably mentioned the most highly emotional of all, bin Laden responsible for all the mayhem on September 11th.
You caused quite a stir in the debate last week when you came out against the death penalty for Osama bin Laden.
So you can't be a little bit pregnant, same with the death penalty, either for it or against it. And I've been opposed to it because in Rhode Island we executed an innocent man, highly emotional, quick execution. And so I've been opposed to the death penalty since then. But also I think important in this discussion about how you feel about different people, it goes to the website of Mayor Laffey where former Councilman Randy Jackvoni is still to this day on his website, but rubbed out. And there's also a picture of former Republican Councilman Randy Jackvoni's family on Mayor Laffey's website, rubbed out. And I think
Senator, I'm not sure I understand Randy Jackvoni's pertinence.
Well,
explain that, please.
There's a vindictiveness that that is relevant to Bill's question. Similar feeling towards people that might oppose Mayor Laffey that I think is relevant.
All right, Mayor Laffey.
Yes, I did not know getting into public office we'd have to lose our sense of humor, folks. Senator Chafee, indeed, and you all were there, everybody in this room, I think, was at the Follies in February, where he actually pixeled me out of an ad, which I thought was, quite frankly, rather humorous.
That is half the growth rate of the last 75 years.
It's exactly what I just said. No answer.
We're going to do better than that. Yes, I had a much better answer than yours.